All right, we are live. Welcome, everybody. We're just going to wait a couple more minutes before we get started. Thank you all for being here bright and early. We appreciate it.
Hi, welcome everyone to this session called Are You Ready? A Look into the Future. My name is Aviva Baff. I am a senior program manager at the Clubhouse Network. I've been with the network for over 5 years. I've had a couple of different roles, and my role right now is to think about how the network is supporting you, young people, when you look and think and get ready for your future. So we only have 15 minutes today, so don't expect that you're going to leave this session and know every step for your future, but I want you to leave this session and think about how you can think through your future and work for your future, particularly over these 2 days. So I'm going to kick us off by reading something from one of our web pages at the Clubhouse Network. And it is around what we call Clubhouse to College and Clubhouse to Career. So it's really going from the Clubhouse to what you do after high school. And I'm going to read this to you because I think it's really important. By leveraging the technology skills and experience they, or you, gain at the Clubhouse, the goal is to provide young people with the skills and knowledge needed to take an active role in ensuring their own success. Clubhouse to College / Clubhouse to Career helps Clubhouse members explore professional jobs and academic opportunities and learn from people who have already succeeded in their careers. So at your Clubhouse, you have done things around technology, but you've also done things around thinking around careers and your future. And that might be that you took a college tour. It might be that you met someone who has a different career. It could be a whole host of things. And all of those pieces are helping to form not only your interests, but also how you go about your future. And I want us to think about that. How do I go about my future? How do I move in the world right now and thinking ahead? So we're going to do a fun little self-assessment, and then I'll share with you why. So we're going to do some polls, and I'm going to introduce my colleague, Jake, who will be leading the polls.
Good morning, everybody. The first question is open.
So I want
you can find the polls, the questions, just to the right of your screen, right next to chat.
And I want you to be really honest. This is just for you, and then you can see everyone's results to get a sense. So thinking about how people understand your questions, instructions, and ideas the first time that you share them. And as the poll wraps up, Jake will read us out our results.
We have votes are coming in. Thank you all. We've got 1 for usually. We've got 8 for often. We have 2 for sometimes. Ooh, we're up to 8 for sometimes.
Thank you, everyone, for being honest, thinking this through.
Often and sometimes are still the lead answers, 11 responses each.
And as you're looking through, I don't want you to compare to say, oh, I said sometimes and more people are saying often. I want you to think just about where you are, but you can also look at where others are for interest. But I don't want you to necessarily think I should be somewhere that I'm not. You are where you are.
And if you're just joining us, the questions again are off to the right side of the page. You'll click on polls next to chat. Aviva, do you want me to move on to the next question?
Yes, please. So self-assess again. I listen carefully to others and avoid mental and environmental distractions while listening. Those distractions can be a cell phone, a TV, your own thoughts, anything else around you. And obviously you can only avoid distractions as best as you can.
We've got 2 responses for usually. We've got 1 response. 3 responses for often, 7 responses for usually, 2 responses for sometimes.
This one in particular, I think, is harder for young people. You're living with your families. You don't always have control over your environments, but just being aware of it can often have some impact. Jake, I wonder if we want to wrap this one up and move to the next one.
Sure. All right, the next one is now open.
So you might say, I don't work in a team. The team doesn't necessarily have to be a formalized team to say, you 3 are a team. But when you're working in a group, when you're working with more than yourself, right? Do you draw out the strengths of other people for the good of the group? Or are you focused more on just yourself or just them separately?
And responses are just starting to come in. We've got 2 folks say often. 1 person has said rarely. Uh, 2 more responses for usually. We're up to 7 responses for often. 1 response for sometimes. Now 2. And we're up to 3 responses for rarely.
Great. Thank you all for your honesty and self-reflection. Let's pop over to the next one. This is our last question. And a really important one, I'm willing to try new things and constantly seek ways to improve and grow. And that is hard, I think, for every human being, but it says try and seek.
We've got 2 responses for usually, 2 responses for often. We're up to 7 responses for usually, 3 responses for often, 3 responses for sometimes, and 1 response for rarely.
Great. Thank you so much, everyone, for participating in the polls. I hope it gave you a little moment of self-reflection and self-assessment. Jake, you can go ahead and close those out. And you'll notice that when adults talk about your future, a lot of times they talk about hard skills, right? What are you going to learn and go do for your career? And that is 100% important. And you are learning tons of hard skills in the Clubhouse. I want to also talk about soft skills a little bit. So soft skills are those traits that you hear a lot about: leadership, communication, time management, and more. And these are really important. And I want you, over these this next day and a half, these 2 days, I want you to really pay attention to the soft skills that you're using or that you see being used. And then hopefully that can carry over beyond this leadership event. And there's a definition on the screen if you want to read through that carefully, but I want to articulate that both types of skills are necessary. So hard skills, those kind of the technical knowledge, the technical know-how, that's important, but so are the soft skills. Those are also important. And I want to read you one quote that I think is really interesting to consider and think about. As automation increases in the digital age, leaders and employees' soft skills will become critically important to getting and keeping a competitive edge. So you can be taught a hard skill, but if you aren't able to communicate or work with other people or manage your time, you may not be able to be successful. So you really need to have both go hand in hand. Now, you might be sitting there thinking, okay, leadership, communication, time management, is that it? Are those all the soft skills? So I'm going to share out one list, and there are so many lists. And some of them are very similar to each other and they have different terms. I'm sharing this one list because I want you to think about these categories during this conference. I think these are really nice categories to consider. So you'll see at the bottom of this screen, we have a link. That's where you can read more about these. But I want you to think about your communication skills during this event and beyond. Are you chatting when you have a question and asking it? Are you participating when the facilitator is asking for participation? Enthusiasm and attitude. Are you with your video off and your eyes closed and sitting there a little bit bored? Or are you up and engaged and being enthusiastic? When you're working with more than one person, how are you doing with teamwork and collaboration? And networking is a huge one for today. You are going to be exposed to both young people as well as adults. And are you saving contact information, maybe even following up with people after this on social media, LinkedIn? If there's any opportunity to critically think through issues and problem solve, what are you doing and how are you doing with that? And then professionalism, and that's in many ways a loaded term because what one office considers professional, another office might not be considered professional, but there are some basics that are kind of across the board, like show up on time, have on a clean shirt, depending on your job. So I want you to think about these, and I would encourage you to go to this youth.gov website to read more about them. And we're going to close out today by thinking about things that we can do during this time, during this leadership event, and then hopefully, as I said, it will carry on. So we're going to do one more set of polls. Jake will load them. And I want you to think about what you will do today and also tomorrow and even beyond it. So when you are in a workshop or when you are wherever you are, will you commit to being an active listener, focusing on the people speaking, taking notes if you need, and controlling distractions as best as you can? So I want you to either say, yes, I'll do this. This is hard for me, but I'll try. Or be honest, maybe it's an I don't think so for you.
Polls are open. I see votes coming in. If you're just joining us to participate in the polls, you're looking at the polls, the purple polls icon on the right side of your screen. We have 4 responses for yes, I will. 1 response for this is hard for me, but I will try.
I love that. This is hard for me, but I'll try is just as important as yes, I will, in my mind, if this is really hard for you.
We're up to 13 responses for yes, I will, 4 responses for this is hard for me, but I will try, and 1 response for I don't think so.
Okay. So I would ask you to really think throughout this leadership event about all of these and more. Jake, let's switch to the next poll.
Mm-hmm.
So today, will you participate by asking questions, making comments, and responding to the content that you hear? And I almost think everyone hopefully should put yes, I will for this, because you're already taking a poll, you're already participating. And hopefully in the additional sessions, you'll have a chance to speak.
So we have 2 responses for this is, we have 5 responses for yes, I will, 8 responses for this is hard for me, but I will try, and 2 responses for I don't think so. A few more just came in.
A few more came in, good. I would say if you're saying I don't think so, I want you to also think about why and what places, what you will be doing, because everyone's going to be doing something. Thanks. Let's move to the next one, Jake. And I find this one to be really challenging. I will pay attention to who is speaking and will follow up with people after today to network. That's a really hard one.
We've got 2 responses for yes, I will.
Okay.
5 for yes, I will, 2 for this is hard for me, but I will try, and 1 response for I don't think so.
All right. For time's sake, we're going to move right to the next poll. This is our last one. And this one goes back to everything I've been trying to talk about today with you, which is identify hard skills and soft skills I'm learning and using. Even if you're not using them, just identifying like, oh, that's a hard skill. Oh, that's a soft skill. Oh, that's something I know how to do. That's communication. That's collaboration. That's leadership. Pay attention to how the facilitator is leading, even if you're not the one doing it.
Well, time may have won this one because I don't see that particular question. It may not have been preloaded, but.
Okay. All right. Well, I want to say thank you all. Please think about hard and soft skills during your event and beyond. And thank you very much for your time. Bye.